Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of LA Legal. I'm Liana, I am joined by Nima, and today we have a very special guest who is Nima's friend of, we established, 25 years. So, Hadi, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and we'll get started.
Thank you very much, Lena. I'm Hadi Ramsey. I own Los Angeles City Law, and we practice personal injury, and I'm a very close friend of Nima. I've been friends with him for about 20, 25 years.
Yeah, longtime friend. So excited to have Hadi on the show. We're talking Britney Spears, of course. But fun fact, Hadi also employs Liana's husband. So, you know.
There we go.
Amazing.
We got it all covered here today.
Yeah.
Handsome man.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think so too.
Muscular man.
You are really inflating his age.
He's amazing.
Thank you. So let's get started. I mean, I don't think Britney Spears needs any kind of an introduction, but I have to give one regardless. Britney initially gained her fame as a young star on the Mickey Mouse Club. Her journey into stardom took a tumultuous turn in her 20s, her decline unfortunately becoming synonymous with her success. What started as a temporary conservatorship for someone clearly facing personal challenges and a crisis extended into a 13-year-long ordeal. This arrangement sparked speculations about control, abuse, and birthed the infamous #FreeBritney movement. So much to talk about here. 13 years worth of conspiracies and all sorts of things. But let's start with talking about what is a conservatorship. I think that's a good starting point, and we can peel the layers of the onion. So whoever wants to.
Look, I can jump in. Yeah. So conservatorship is really the most extreme form of legal control. It's really like being a child. You can't make decisions for yourself. And there's really two types of conservatorship. Conservatorship over the person. So those are everyday decisions like, can you get married? You know, what medicine can you take or must take? Right. And then there's a conservatorship over the finances, which is obviously the money. So, you know, what's unique about Britney is obviously she was so young. She's one of the most successful entertainers of our generation. I mean, setting aside whatever mental health issues there are. But, you know, she was young and she had a lot of money, you know, and she still has a lot of money, which you don't typically see. You know, conservatorships are people that are old or they have significant psychiatric issues.
So what I always thought was interesting is, especially, you know, practicing law, right? We've talked about this before. We've actually had clients that we've helped, you know, their significant others or, you know, family members put them in a conservatorship because they just were basically in a vegetative state. Sure. And so to think of a young 30-something-year-old or even early, late 20s at that point, to be put in this kind of a conservatorship, I think that's what really kind of got the media frenzy going, right? Because it's not something that you hear about or you come across very frequently.
Yeah, that's the thing. With Britney, of course, everybody, you know, what an icon over the years. She's been just fantastic. The things that really turned the tables were just her, I guess, erratic behavior. And all of a sudden, everybody was wondering, wait, shaving the head is one thing, but just the weird actions that she had throughout the course of 20 years ago or so, everything started. So,
but let's talk about that, right? I mean, is that enough to kind of put you in a conservatorship, right? She shaves her head. Right. You know, she's out partying, doing drugs, drinking, but like, who isn't in especially in Hollywood,
entertainment
at that age,
industry for sure. So. I think that I believe it was internal. It was a family type of an investigation that they finally came up with the idea of, okay, our daughter's not really doing well. I get Jamie Spears is the father.
Yeah. And the conservator.
Yeah, and he kind of just spearheaded this whole thing. And I don't think we will ever know if it was actually, you know, something that was merited. But when you're in a family, you know your own daughter. You can tell if something is wrong. Have it be mental or just, you know, idiosyncrasies, whatever it is, you know, as a parent. But again, to have the court step in on some celebrity as huge as Britney Spears is, I think that's what the waves are calling about right now.
Yeah, has a smirk.
Yeah, no. I mean, look, we live in LA, and look, we deal with all sorts of crazy, right, in our personal and our professional lives. If that was enough to be in our conservatorship, I think there'd be a lot more people under conservatorship, right? You know, look, she goes through postpartum. She obviously has issues with paparazzi. She goes through a nasty divorce, child custody dispute. Look, she gets put in a hold. But the way I view things is all of that that's not enough for conservatorship. It's really meant for like people that cannot take care of themselves. Look, she's got financial issues. That's what managers and accountants and
who doesn't have financial issues? I mean, if you ask my husband, I should be in a conservatorship too. I mean, but not to make light of it, but I agree with you guys, right? I mean, look at people like Lindsay Lohan, right? I mean, she is like the poster child of like Disney actress, child star gone wild,
right?
And you don't see this kind of extreme measure that's being taken against her. And then we have other, especially like the male celebrities, right? I mean, Robert Downey Jr. at one point had like a crazy fall from grace.
How about our friend Charlie Sheen?
Oh, Charlie Sheen, yes. Oh, he was actually the first person in my notes. I forgot. Charlie Sheen, right? But you just don't see this kind of extreme sort of legal action being taken to save these guys.
And I think it's also compounded by the fact that she's got really loyal fans. I mean, her fans are just out and about in the courthouse, outside, just picketing, just wishing her best of luck with her life. But I think it's just really put a huge spotlight on the whole issue. I mean, you mentioned even, the Sheen, Michael Sheen, whoever else that's in the same scenario. I don't think they'll have such a strong, fan base. Johnny Depp, yes. Yes, but a lot of screaming teenage girls, that is going to scare anyone.
Yeah, man, I think it's like it's Taylor Swift, and then like it's Britney Spears, like right there, right after the Swifties.
Oh, don't say that.
I mean, she has lots of fans.
Yeah.
Leave Britney alone.
Look, I am from the era of Britney Spears, not so much Taylor Swift, so that little like Taylor over Britney, that hurts me a little bit, but Maddie's about to like throw a spear at me. So let's talk about Jamie Spears as a conservator, right? Because I think that there's so much there, right? Number one, he's her dad. Okay. One would assume that he has her best interest at heart, but then you start kind of digging deep and you realize he's not really been around too much. He has his own issues with alcohol. He's being tested on a weekly along with his daughter. There seems to be a huge, in my mind, conflict of interest here. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I mean,
no question. He's making millions of dollars off his daughter's conservatorship, right? Yeah. Acting as the conservator. So, is this really the best interest of the child, or is this someone that is milking their child? And we've seen it time and time again in Hollywood, right? You have hangers-on, you have child entertainers, and the parents just want to get a piece. So, the question is, should she be in a conservatorship? I think the answer to that, from a legal perspective, is she doesn't meet the criteria, right? So then she's under a conservatorship, and under a conservatorship for 13 years, while her dad and lawyer bill on the case. They make millions of dollars. Right. She's clearly unhappy, right? She's saying things on social media. She says that she doesn't want to perform and tour and is being forced to. They're forcing meds on her.
Right.
So you got this other component. Well, not only is she under conservatorship when she shouldn't be, but people are making a lot of money off this conservatorship that you don't typically see.
Right.
Right. And she's performing like 200 and some odd shows in her, I think it was called the Circus Tour. And then
it's in Vegas, right?
The Circus Tour was a world tour. So it was so they went all over Europe, America. And then she actually testified when she called in court, and she was like, the minute I got back, they handed me documents to sign for the Vegas residency. And I think that's really what kind of sparked this Free Britney movement, because someone who can perform, look, I've danced professionally most of my life, and it's very like exhausting. You have to remember counts and steps, and you're at rehearsal. Someone who can do that and perform 250 plus shows and pull off 4-year residency in Vegas.
Such a good point.
Is not somebody who cannot take care of themselves. Finances, maybe. But,
Definitely ties in with what Nima said too. So you do have to qualify or be an applicant that the court actually approves and makes you have a conservator. But exactly. There's no way you can run a line or dance or do anything without having the capacity to do so. Even though you've done it all your life, you still have to remember new lines, new dancing, and all that stuff.
And she's a judge on American Idol. She appeared, I think it was How I Met Your Mother. So she's doing a lot more than she normally would have regardless. So that to me was just so fascinating how, I think we can establish that there's a lot of like self-serving with Jamie Spears, but how is the court allowing this to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's isolation. When Britney finally calls in, she's like, no one, including my own court-appointed lawyer, told me that I can petition to end this conservatorship, right? So, some of it's isolation, some of it's potentially keeping her uninformed. I don't know what her lawyer told her and what he did. And obviously, he denied it. But we kind of saw this recently in another case, not Britney Spears, not as high profile, but it was Michael Orr from The Blind Side, right, recently, where he alleges that, you know, the family put him under a conservatorship. Basically, he signed his rights away to this movie, made a lot of money, but he didn't get any of it, or got very little. So, you know, the question is, was this some sort of legal means to keep Britney isolated? And then obviously, you know, her fans were looking at her social media, looking for clues and that type of thing. But clearly she wanted out and didn't know she wanted out. And didn't know how to get out, excuse me.
Well, her attorney too, right? I mean, you said it. He's making millions. And who's determining these fees, right? I mean, he's probably working, I don't know how many hours, but, you know, it probably is reasonable, whatever that may be. I mean, this is Britney Spears we're talking about. It's a huge estate. And so what's his motivation to get her out of it?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, we're plaintiffs' lawyers. We get paid to be efficient, right? But defense lawyers, people that are billing, they just get paid to bill. If they have a case that lasts 10 years, they're loving life. You know, imagine you're a defense lawyer, you're billing on a case, the client has, like, basically unlimited money.
Unlimited.
You're just racking up the billables, you know? You're probably thinking, well, why do I want this to end?
Yeah, as unethical as that is, that's kind of sometimes we get stuck in that scenario doing what we do. You know, you got the defense counsel, it's a hired outside gun, and they just sit on the case and they don't want to do anything. So same scenario with these lawyers that are involved.
And look, that's not to say that every lawyer is ethical. I mean, I think Girardi was spotlight, like the one that I'm sitting in front of right now, into the fact that a lot of attorneys are just not ethical. So, you know, I think with him, there's that fine line between ethics and, you know, your duty to zealously represent your client and which way are you going to go. I read a report that she was making or her allowance was like $2,000 a week, while her attorney's making like $100K a month from the estate that she's paying for.
What?
So, and
she was like driving like I don't know what it was, some like older car, or she couldn't even drive.
Couldn't even go to Starbucks, you know. And her dad is making a $16,000 a month salary. She's paying his attorney's fees. He's making 1.5% from all of her merchandise and ticket sales. That's a 4-year residency we're talking about, huge world tour. So that's a lot of money these people are making, and she's paying for it, and she's making nothing. So
fortunately,
no, go ahead.
Well, you know, fortunately, at some point, there's another lawyer that comes in, right? And, you know, he's a Harvard lawyer, and he's a former federal prosecutor.
There it is.
And, you know that...
I wonder who that is.
When you have a Harvard former federal prosecutor... It actually wasn't me, but Matt
Rosengart,
you know, but but whenever I hear Harvard former federal prosecutor, I think to myself, wow, that must be a good lawyer. And she did having a good lawyer, right?
Yeah.
So he comes in, and, you know, lo and behold, he files a petition to terminate, right?
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, it just sounds like a movie to me. Yeah. You know, why don't we make it?
Yeah, we should.
Put it into production. But no, I mean, this is very alarming to me because it's brand new news to me. I didn't even know about that because I'm not that big of a Britney Spears fan. However, if it did happen, shame on Jamie Spears. Come on, that's your own daughter. That's ridiculous. And somebody's got to be driving this. It's got to be either Jamie Spears or she's got the worst PR team, obviously. Something is going on. There's just the way that the stuff that she's posting online with dancing with knives.
Did you guys hear about that? That she had the cops call, or somebody internally called cops, I think, because she was dancing with butcher knives.
Yeah, I think we're talking about what's happening right now. Look, I mean, Britney's videos on social media are interesting, to say the least. You know, like, does she have bipolar disorder? She said she has it. She said she's on lithium. So these are all things that, you know, I believe. But then, again, not conservatorship appropriate. Think of all the crazy stuff we see on social media. Right. Not enough.
Well, speaking of bipolar, Kanye is another great example.
Right.
Is my man Kanye in a conservatorship?
Somebody's knocking on that door.
No. So,
I mean,
no.
He's pretty wild. Know. So, but yeah, sorry, I just...
Yeah, no, so then all of a sudden, I think Jamie sees the writing on the wall, right? He becomes one of the most hated people in America because people think that he's abusing his daughter, and this is unlawful. So he says, you know what? I'm going to walk away from the conservatorship of the person but I still want to run the finances, right? So that was kind of step one, you know, so that transition happened. But again, Britney's lawyer now says, no. I want this whole thing to terminate.
Right.
And he opposed the termination. It was kind of bizarre to me.
The whole thing from A to Z is bizarre, but I want to talk a little bit about the role of social media, right? We live in this era that like our lives are kind of dictated and run by social media. And so let's talk a little bit about the videos even before the termination of the conservatorship, right? Because that's where people started really kind of like picking up clues. Like, is she trying to tell us she needs help, right? And so you read these things, you watch these comments, and then you see this like crazy movement emerge out of nowhere, right? Like Free Britney was everywhere. It was trending. And so do you guys think that that had a role in any kind of capacity in her eventual
Yeah, for sure.
conservatorship?
I feel like if she is stuck in that conservatorship, still at this point, is she still there?
No, she's out.
No, she's already out. Okay, that's what I figured. So that whole movement in itself is just very huge. It was impactful, obviously. But no matter how big it was, it still took, 10 years to get to where it has to be. And I just don't know. I think that regardless, it's one of those things where it's just, your childhood friend you grow up with and you see her going through this, all these fans really have this feeling about her. But I think it did have some sort of a powerful movement it did have impact.
Oh, I agree. There's no question. I mean, social media is so powerful. I mean, look, when Congress says we want to have hearings on conservatorships because Britney's fans are, up in arms. I mean, people are taking notice. And probably no one even knew what a conservatorship was. Most lawyers are like, unless you happen to deal with it, knew what a conservatorship was. Such a niche area of the law. And for it to be used the way it was, and for what clearly seemed to be like someone that didn't belong in a conservatorship needed out. Right. So again, so now you got the Judge Penny, finally appoints or allows Britney to hire her own lawyer. I mean, gets involved, then within a matter of time, the conservatorship is terminated. And the question is now, he wants to kind of go back after Jamie, do an accounting, sue him to get some of Britney's money, get some of her money back. What do you think about all that?
Not bad. I like it.
I like it.
Somebody's got to do it.
I think they should.
Spears v. Spears?
Let's do it. Well, here's why. Jokes aside, right? Because I like to talk about precedent, right? Because what does this tell us about the future, right? So if we kind of let this thing just like slide or, swipe it under the rug, then the next person can be put into something like this. And maybe the next person is not Britney Spears and has millions of fans who, we're talking about global scale, right? This is Britney, but these things happen on a much smaller scale with like families, right? And so I think that if that does happen and we set some kind of a precedent of like, all right, the abuse happens, and and you will be held accountable if it's proven that it happened, then I think that maybe we can start sort of minimizing these incidences.
Yeah, it's scary that it actually could happen to anyone because at the end of the day, any family member could have, the wherewithal to proceed with this type of proceeding. And I gotta be honest, I think my wife's called on that a couple of times on me. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I think
just put you on legal lockdown, right?
Yeah, you're crazy. Yeah. We're gonna have to go talk to the judge. Yeah. Let's see what happens. But
Hadi comes home late one night. Next thing you know.
And it's only one night a week.
Yeah, and then
I don't indulge that.
Yeah, much. we violate our curfew. Next thing you know, you got the conservatorship petition ready to go.
But what do you think, Nima, about?
Well, look, I mean, on one hand, you need conservatorships for people that actually need it. Someone's in a coma, they got severe dementia, right? But on the other, does someone like Britney need it? No, man, it's Britney, bitch. She does not need a conservatorship. So when I hear that, people hear that, I say, listen, what is the judge doing? What are the other folks here? Like, even if everyone agrees, right? I mean, you're the judge, you're Judge Penny. Maybe you're kind of rubber stamping it because no one cares. But shouldn't you be asking, hey, does this person need to be under conservatorship? This is a good use of even the court's time to keep this case open for 13 years.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm talking about, right? Do you think it's this sort of pressure from fans who are picketing in downtown LA every day? We would see it all the time, right? I mean, is it sort of this pressure on the judge to, hey, do the right thing, look into this?
Just imagine getting assigned that case as a judge. You're like, oh, God.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'd be like, okay,
same as the OJ case. Just imagine. It would have gone nuts.
Yeah. But there's so many less restrictive ways to help someone who needs, you know, for whatever reason, assistance, right? Whether it's power of attorney, custody, if there's kids involved, right? So, you know, again, to kind of think of this sort of extreme measure to be taken, I think is...
yeah, I just wonder how it got here, because it's had to have had such an impact on the family that somebody kind of just decided, you know, to go forward with this, like legally. But I'm just thinking, if it was my daughter, I wouldn't care. I would never get the court involved, because I know how. I mean, because we know how it is. We all know it drags everybody else in the court system. You have to do a lot of questionnaires and qualifications and whatnot. I just don't think I would ever put my daughter through that, ever.
Right.
It's just incredible.
If you're somebody who's money hungry. Well, look, and again, this isn't someone who has been in her life, right? We've kind of, I'm a true Britney fan, so I have followed her career, and her mom's always been by her side. So it's interesting that the mom didn't step up and say, put me as a conservator. All of a sudden,
though, I know she kind of came and then she went. You know, Britney's had a good relationship with her, but I don't think the mom was like, at least in the picture, managing things from a business and legal
more
perspective.
so than the dad, I would imagine, right? Because there was a point where they got a divorce, and then the dad just kind of went MIA, and he became an alcoholic, and so...
Listen, Britney's had problems in her personal life with her sister. Obviously, look, she's gone through many relationships, right? Just got married and divorced to one of us, Persian guy. It's Sam Asghari. Yeah. So,
You're on fire today.
Thanks, you know. But look,
we scored.
But even that,
Persian
I was like, one of us. Who?
Yeah.
Who at this firm?
Yeah. But even that, you know, look, celebrity divorces can get nasty. You know, they're separating, and you know, there's some veiled threats or maybe some direct threats that he's gonna kind of spill the beans on what really goes behind the scenes.
Well, he's been in the picture during most of this.
Yeah, right? He was advocating for her, but you know, and he did not like the dad at all. The dad didn't like him. Again, this is what's being reported in kind of the rumor mill, but I believe it. Look, and if you believe a lot of these allegations about Jamie Spears, supposedly he had like cameras in her bedroom.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like really crazy, creepy stuff. I don't know if it's true or not, you know, but he's apparently watching her like round the clock, doesn't want her to date this guy that she loves and wants to marry. Maybe he was right. I don't know about what he saw in her, but what he saw in their relationship. But I mean, it was really, really controlling stuff.
Right.
Wow.
Well, I'm glad that's a good segue into, because I did want to talk about the security, the security team that was hired. I think it was Black Box or something, and so they were instructed to put up cameras and like basically to bug her entire house, including her bedroom. And then we have that IUD situation. And
she can't have kids. Like
we're dealing with like fundamental rights, right? And so how does that slide? That to me is the most mind-boggling. Right.
Well, I mean, that's what conservatorships are, right? Like, when you're talking about control, you're talking about complete control, medical control. You cannot have children. You cannot get married. We saw this with Amanda Bynes. Like, she wanted to marry someone she met in rehab. She was in a conservatorship. Her parents said no. But when we say control, like, you can't do anything without your conservator's permission.
Yeah, that is...
That
it's
includes
startling. Yeah, I mean, think about it. The court pretty much just tells you what to do. It's kind of like one of those third-rate countries. It's like Iran. The government is telling you what to do. And at the end of the day...
Britney Spears comes out.
Iran is like taking a hit on this podcast today.
Yeah, but Britney Spears comes out ahead, like a head
job.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Man, that's a great meme.
Yeah.
Bring on D.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, so... total breach of any kind of like confidentiality and ethics too, right? Because one of the documentaries I listened to last night, I think it was the head of security from that team, and he's like, you have to remember, our client is Jamie, not Britney, right? So anything that Jamie tells them to do, even if it's like odd,
right?
They
got to do it.
They got to do it because Britney's not their client. Their loyalties and they're being paid.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they're hired by Jamie, but Jamie's a fiduciary. We all know, going back to.
Right.
You like that?
But
like
is
that
he?
Law school?
But is he? Is he really? Because
well, he should be, right?
He has
a duty of care and loyalty and all those legal things we learn.
Right.
You know, utmost duty of care as a fiduciary.
Right. But, well, somebody just took the bar and they're showing off, okay? But
well, yeah, besides the ethical stuff, I mean, just being the father, I think that in itself is innately important in something like this, to have this type of control and have, you know, security just doing, I guess, whatever they're doing around the house to make sure she's under control. But I mean, it's like being an animal in a cage almost. It's crazy.
Well, you know, it's interesting because prisoners in prison have more liberties than she did,
man.
right?
That's true.
That's
a good point, yeah.
They can make decisions about their medical treatment. They can probably, I don't know, I hope I never have to know, but like, you know, choose if they want IVs or not. Like, I'm sure these are things that they can control when they're in prison. And here's Miss Britney Spears, you know, queen of pop, and can't even make that decision. I think it's jokes aside, I think it's just so heartbreaking, and I think it's just been very sad to see this entire thing unfold. And it still hasn't ended, right? Because now it's like, okay, you're out of this conservatorship, but like now it's like, well, how do you reemerge from that? One, and two, your videos are like very
so the question is,
questionable.
she lost not lost, but like 13 years of her life. She was under control. Now she's not. You know, she's now newly single. You know, she apparently had a prenup. You know, so everything's. I assume that divorce is going to get resolved soon. But you know, what are we seeing from Britney Spears now? She has little to no time she spends with her kids. Right. I think Kevin Federline moved them to Hawaii, right?
That's full custody.
It's full custody. So now she's single, and we're seeing videos of her dancing, which is fine. But now we're seeing some weapons potentially. Where people are seeing maybe some injuries. You know, people are really zooming in on those.
People have a lot
videos,
of time.
But a lot of people are concerned about her, and should they be concerned? I don't think she should ever go into conservatorship. But if you really care about Britney and you're a fan, what can you do to help her?
Well, I don't think it's conservatorship level concern, but I do think that there's some serious mental health there, right? Because she's taking these videos of herself, she's posting them, she's rambling for paragraphs about, it's like a giant sentence, run-on sentence that just doesn't end. So it really is sad to see, because I always think back to like 98 with her Baby One More Time, and like she just really was, you know, that like princess of pop, queen of pop, whatever. And it's just really sad to see this decline.
It is. I mean, the loneliness is killing me. You know. You know?
Okay, bye. You are an undercover fan. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, look, she's sad and lonely, and you know, law enforcement had to be called for a wellness check. She got mad at them when they showed up. So I'm sure this Britney saga is going to continue for quite some time. This isn't the end of it.
Right.
She's been on 5150.
We also forgot to mention that there was a restraining order filed against Jamie because he was threatening one of her sons. So there's also that. Like, the guy is an alcoholic. He's potentially abusive. So there's just a lot that happened.
He was hospitalized himself. He has health issues. I mean, the whole thing is just a mess.
Yeah.
It's just a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
Right.
It is.
It's in a bad way.
Yeah.
I don't wish it on anyone, to be honest, but...
Of all the documentaries that have come out, I'm surprised no one's made a movie of it, like a Lifetime movie.
I'm sure there is one. There's probably something out there.
Trust me, I would know.
But she's been upset at how she's portrayed in those documentaries too. So.
Well, look, I feel like that's because it's like she's living this nightmare, and then people are still capitalizing on her nightmare. Right? I mean, like, these people are making money. Hulu's making money. Netflix is making God knows how much money off these documentaries. So it must be really lonely and isolating. I don't know if that's a lyric to some song. Nima, go ahead. And
very close.
But you know, to think that at every turn someone's making money off of you, and all you want is just some freedom and happiness.
Well, it's a tale of all this time. You know, people love a Hollywood train wreck. So unfortunately, Britney Spears.
That was Disney. Good for you.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse Club. Look at that, bringing that full circle.
Yeah. Amazing. I like that.
I like it.
This is just like a room full of segues, and I love it.
Yeah.
Well, that's that Harvard brain for it.
I know, it's almost very like fluid, and it's delicious.
Well, now that you're here for your first podcast, hopefully we can have you back. Hadi, our good friend, boss, where can they find you guys on social media?
Oh,
LA City Law?
At LA City Law, yeah. I'm horrible with that stuff. I mean, I wish I was like you know, all over the world and nation and giving interviews.
Well, that's why you're here.
Yeah, you're here. We're going to have lots of content for you. We're going to chop this up.
I love it.
The best moments, of course. And push it out.
Which
so
is all
at LA City Law.
Yes, at LA City
Law. Follow
Check him out. He's got good stuff over there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you for having me.